What's going on, my trainer club? Today we are going to look at, do you power up the Giratina Altered Forme in Pokemon Go? Is it worth your Stardust? What is the best situation for this Pokemon? So it is the best of the best series, so you know what time it is. Welcome to the trainer club. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Let me know in the comments below, how have you been doing with your Giratina Altered Forme? Do you have the shiny? Have you traded it for a lucky? And what are your thoughts as far as this Pokemon Go? Because today we are going to check out the best of the best series, meaning, is this Pokemon going to be worth powering up? How does it sit? Because it is a dual typing Pokemon against the Ghost and the Dragon Pokemon. So, like I always say, before we get into it, hit that sub button. But if it is going to be powered up, is it going to be the best? Where does it sit? How does it do? Let's get right into it right now. But if you already know and you've been with me on a bunch of my best of the best series, you can definitely check the pinned comments below for the timestamp. That's like, I already know what DPS is. I'm very comfortable with TDO. I already understand DPS times TDO. Get me right into the stats. That's gonna be the timestamp below for all you trainers that have been with me for a while, or just already know about this. But if you have not, we're gonna get into it right now. I'm gonna go over the DPS first, which stands for damage per second. Damage per second means, in combination with the stab effectiveness, which also means, right, couple of terms that you may not know of. Stab basically is, if it's a ghost Pokemon, when it has a ghost move, how does it do, right? That is a stab effective Pokemon. If it is a ghost Pokemon and it gets a fighting move, that is not stab effectiveness, so that is not going to count. So beyond that, we need to know, how powerful is it? DPS is strictly a measurement of power. When I am delivering one punch, how powerful can it be? Is basically the calculation of DPS. It does not mean, which is gonna translate into TDO, how long can the Pokemon last while punching, right? So the TDO is total damage output, which is basically, while the entire longevity of the fight, how good is this Pokemon? Let's look at fire Pokemon, because there is really good ways to calculate this. When we look at fire Pokemon, a DPS Pokemon that is high DPS is going to be like a Blaziken. Blaziken has very high DPS in the fire category, same with Moltres. However, if you look at something like a Ho-Oh, doesn't necessarily have such a high DPS, but the TDO, the longevity of the life of the Pokemon, or something like a Lugia, is pretty good, pretty high up there, right? So that is the difference maker in TDO. It is going to be the longevity of the Pokemon that doesn't always correlate with the damage that it's gonna do. And then the third metric that we're gonna look at is going to be the DPS times TDO, which is a measurement, probably one of the best measurements that we have statistic-wise, of when we use this Pokemon, is it gonna be best overall, utilizing the DPS, utilizing the TDO, and then combining it to be the best, right? Because we want to know, is this Pokemon worth gonna be powering up? Where does it sit? The TDO times DPS is gonna be the best metric that we can use to judge. But then, wait, we have to use our trainer brains, because like I always say, 1 bar special compared to a 2 bar special is a big difference maker, especially when we are maybe using a Glacier Pokemon like a Gengar. If we were using something like a Focus Blast, not so effective. But if it had Dynamic Punch, I know that's not stab effectiveness and it's a little bit off, but if it had Dynamic Punch, it would be better, because Gengar is Glacier, right? Think of that same thing with the Dragons. If we can get a Outrage Pokemon compared to a Draco Meteor Pokemon, much better. So if the stats are super close, and maybe the Dragon Tail Outrage Pokemon sits slightly below the Draco Meteor Pokemon, in my opinion, I would suggest doing that, as long as it's not too big of a gap. So that's what I'm talking about when we use our trainer brains.
Sorry, man, didn't mean to.
Oh, you're good, man. I choose this place, so it's your right.
All right, here we go.
Take care. So that's what I say when I'm looking at the trainer brains and analyzing these Pokemon. So let's get right into it. We're checking out the DPS of the Giratina Altered Forme. Where does it sit? How does it measure up? What is the DPS for the Ghost first, and then we're gonna go into the Dragon. So Ghost DPS right now, let's do it. So doing two different comparisons here. We're gonna start with the Ghost attackers. So checking out the Ghost, we're gonna be looking at the DPS starting off. So we have the Gengar at the top with the Lick Shadow Ball, which I'm surprised that it actually is above the Shadow Claw, since the Shadow Claw is usually talked about to be one of the better moves. Gengar with the Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball is then gonna be 18.0399. Then we have Chandelier, pure Ghost type at 17.525 as far as his moves go. Then we have the Gengar with the Hex and Shadow Ball, 17.131. Moving down, we then have the Haunter actually with the Lick Shadow Ball at 15.877. Then the Giratina Origin Form Shadow Claw Shadow Ball at 15.814. Haunter, again, 15.798. Then we have the Banette Shadow Claw Shadow Ball, which we've been seeing a little bit pop up, 15.513. And then if we go ahead and look at the second page, we have a Drifblim actually at the 13.09, and then the Giratina Origin Form with the Omnious Wind, which is a big difference, at 12.634. Then we have Haunter, and then if we go on to the third page, we then see the Giratina Altered Form with the Shadow Claw Shadow Sneak. Unfortunately, Shadow Sneak is not a premier ghost move at a 9.513.
Unfortunately for the ghost DPS, it is not on the first page, but that doesn't mean that it is completely negligible. We want to then check out the TDO. TDO is going to stand for total damage output. Where is it as far as the tanky Pokemon? And we know this Pokemon's a little bit tankier, so how does it measure up versus the Origin Form, and what are we gonna do for it? So let's check out the TDO right now. Come on.
Moving on to the TDO, we have the top guy. Big surprise here, not really. We have the Giratina Origin Form at 662.8. Then we have the Giratina Origin Form with the Shadow Claw Omnious Wind as the second place at 529. Then the Giratina Altered Form actually comes into third place, which is pretty cool. Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak at 473. And then if we go ahead and move down here, I'm not gonna cover too many of these guys because we're really focusing on the Giratinas, and since they sit at the top, we don't really need to go too much down, but then we actually have the Chandelure, we have two Gengars, and then we have a Drifblim. If you want to see anybody on the second page, you can go ahead and pause here for the Ghost TDO.
Surprising, what a big move difference, right? Just having the difference of a good move to a not so good move, or just a not optimal move set, would do for the Pokemon. So that is the difference maker. But now we want to check out one more thing. We want to check out the DPS times TDO for the ghost category of the Giratina Altered Form. So let's go ahead and check it out right now.
Then we're going to be on to the TDO times DPS, which is going to be the overall to see which is the best. So we have the Giratina Origin Form sitting at the top, Shadow Claw Shadow Ball at 2621, so that's pretty beastly. Then we have Chandelure coming in second with the Hex Shadow Ball at 2192.4. Then we have the Gengars, the Lick Shadow Ball at 2080, and the Gengar with the Shadow Claw Shadow Ball at 2046. And then if you put the different moveset on the Giratina Origin Form with the Omnious Wind, it goes down 1600 points. Oh my goodness, all the way to 1067. Then we have the Banette, the Mismagius, the Banette, the Drifblim, and we're significantly plummeting from here. And then if we go onto the second page, we can check down middle of it, the Giratina Altered Form, middle of the page, for the Shadow Claw Shadow Sneak at a 407.8, which is 2200 points below the Giratina Origin Form, which is absolutely crazy. So as far as the Ghost DPS times TDO, I think that we know where that sits. So we're gonna check out the strategy for the Ghost attackers.
If that doesn't sum it up for the Giratina Altered Form, I don't know what does. It is literally at a 400 DPS times TDO in comparison to the Origin Form at 2600. So for the Ghost Pokemon, I do not highly do not suggest powering up this Pokemon. So what is it useful for? Like I have said multiple times, the Giratina Altered Form right now is going to contribute towards the Origin Form's candy. So we want to do that. However, with myself, I have 14 million Stardust. If I get a shiny and I have a lucky friend trade that wants to do it and I happen to get a really good one, I would probably power it up just because I like the shiny. But outside of that, the functionality purposes, if you don't have over 10 million Stardust with a ton of already powered up counters, I don't suggest even considering this because there are way better options, and I think the Origin Form is gonna come out soon. So let's check it out as far as the Dragon Pokemon go. Let's check out the DPS of the Dragon Pokemon right now.
Moving on to the DPS for the Giratina Altered Form, we do have to look at the dragons, unfortunately. And why I say unfortunately, because there are some beastly dragons as we've already talked about. So if we're looking here, and these stats are broken right now, I'm pretty sure this is gonna get nerfed. We have the Black Kyurem Dragon Tail Outrage with the DPS at 20.264. Then we have the Rayquaza, which is the current reigning supreme Dragon Tail Outrage at 18.68. Salamence with the Outrage, which is the premium moveset that is a Community Day moveset. Then we have the white version, and then we have the Palkia at 17.91, then the Zekrom. And so if we want to see the Giratinas, we're going to have to go onto the third page, which is the Origin Form coming first with the Dragon Tail Dragon Pulse at 13.777, and then the Giratina Altered Form Dragon Breath Dragon Claw at the 11.729.
Doesn't come to a surprise that the Altered Form is way down on the Dragon DPS list, right? There are some powerful dragons, quite arguably the strongest Pokemon in the game. So now let's check out the TDO because it definitely is a little bit more of a tanky Pokemon. So let's see how it sits and compares to some of the dragon Pokemon in its category.
Now checking out the TDO. Big surprise here, we have the black and white Kyurem at the top, 721 and 638. Then we have the Garchomp at a 630 with the Dragon Tail Outrage. And we have Zekrom with Dragon Breath Outrage at 601. Dialga 589. Reshiram at the 589 as well. And then we have the Giratina Altered Forme actually coming in the 7th spot at 584, which is absolutely crazy. Then we have the Palkia, and then the Giratina Origin Form sits in 9th place at 577. So if you guys do want to pause here and check out some of the other TDO overall, we have the Dragonite, the Rayquaza, the Latias, the Salamence, and the Dragonites as well on this page.
Quite surprising, the Altered Form is going to sit on the first page in the TDO for the Dragons, right? It's only about 60 points below the Garchomp that has the highest TDO, which is hugely surprising, right? I know, now we're like, ooh, maybe it could come into effect. Maybe it could have something good. But now let's check out the DPS times TDO to see where it actually sits for the best statistic overall.
Then if we want to check out the DPS times TDO, like I said, this is why I think this is broken. Look at the black Kyurem. 6,000. The current highest, I believe, is the Metagross at 3,600. So the Black Kyurem at 6,000 is absolutely crazy high compared to that, which I do not think it's going to hold up. Then we have the Rayquaza sitting there at the 3,564 with the Dragon Tail Outrage. Then we have Palkia, Dragon Tail, Draco Meteor, Salamence with the Dragon Tail Outrage, which is an amazing moveset at the 3,269. Then we have Garchomp, Zekrom, which is not out yet, Salamence, Dialga, and Reshiram. But if we want to check out the Giratinas, we're going to be on the 3rd page here. So if you go ahead and check out here, we're about 25th for the Origin Form at a 1510, and the Altered Form is going to be at a 942. So if you compare that to the first page, which is going to be crazy because the Rayquaza is at about 3,600, Palkia 3,300, Salamence 3,300, and then if you go to the 3rd page, we're now comparing it to a 1,500 and a 940. So as far as this goes, you know, the Giratinas are not premier dragon attackers. They do have the dragon moveset and the dragon typing, but that does not mean that they come into play here. So we're definitely gonna want to play more with these guys in the ghost categories.
Wow, so with that Rayquaza being about 3,600 and the Altered Form being at about 900, I think you guys can guess that even a optimal moveset on this guy would not even put it close to hitting the dragon effectiveness that we would want for this Pokemon. I do Pokemon Go YouTube videos. Pokemon Go?
Oh, Pokemon Go. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Have
fun. So in this particular situation, nothing is going to help this guy out. It is unfortunately going to be way under the dragons, definitely subpar. Obviously, some of the dragons are the most effective and top attackers in the game. So what do we do now? Use it as candy. You could potentially lucky trade it if you have a humongous over 10, even maybe 12 million Stardust, and you have a lucky, good quality shiny, then you may consider powering it up because it would only be 112,000 Stardust, but that is an extra charged move for a Mewtwo or something like that. So as far as right now, this is a hardcore hold. I would not suggest powering up. It cannot make it into the Great Lake, and even if it did, the Origin Form would be more effective than it. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, all my likers, commenters, subscribers, and Patreon members. I hope this helps you guys out to make sure we can conserve and use our resources to the best of our abilities. So I'm gonna see you guys out on that next video. Peace!
I just want to take a moment and sincerely thank all of my Patreon members, everybody that has taken their subscription to the next level and chosen to support me on this platform. I greatly appreciate you guys. As a growing channel and really trying to grow and improve as much as I possibly can, I really appreciate the extra support. You guys mean the absolute world to me. I cannot wait to connect with you soon, and I appreciate you guys all for being a part of the Trainer Club. I will see you guys out on that next video.